not, it's a lot better on the actual meeting. It's just, my desktop has that.
Okay. All right, I'd like to reconvene the April 7th, 2020 meeting. I think Bob has now joined us on the phone remotely.
I am,
And
thank you.
we are going to continue the meeting. Next up on the agenda, public hearing. First up, conduct a public hearing to consider an ordinance OR-2020-05-02, amending the village charter to change the form of government from mayor council form to council manager and to allow the mayor to vote on all matters.
Hey Bob, can you mute yourself, please? Thank you.
I'm sorry?
Can you mute yourself?
We're getting a lot of background noise from the
Oh,
phone.
okay, I'll put it on mute, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Did we do the fireworks?
No, that's
Not yet.
That's
after.
next.
Oh, I'm
All
sorry.
right, so I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing to consider ordinance OR-2020-05-02, amending the village charter to change the form of government from mayor, council form, and council manager, and to allow the mayor to vote on all matters.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Anyone signed up to
No.
speak? No one signed up to speak? I need a motion to close the public hearing.
Now.
Oh, yeah, now we can.
Now we can.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Now we want to go to the remote.
yeah, just ask people if they're here to speak for the.
Yes,
Public
but
hearing.
nobody signed up. They were supposed to sign up with me ahead of
All right.
time.
They
Okay,
can still do it.
Anybody want to talk?
sounds like a no.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing, OR-2020-05-02, amending the village charter to change the form of government from mayor, council form to to council manager, and to allow the mayor to vote on all matters.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
So we just need to direct the staff to put this on the May 12th meeting for
Yeah.
consideration.
Assuming there's no more discussion, any issues or concerns? Bob?
No concerns.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, so we will move that, direct staff to add that to the next, to vote on in the regular meeting in May 12th. Okay, thank you. Next up, we have conduct a public hearing to consider TUP number 20-12379 fireworks display on July 4th at Firethorn Country Club. I need a motion to open the hearing.
So moved.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Has anyone signed up to speak
I didn't get anybody.
Anybody on there want to talk?
on the webcast?
For fireworks.
Fireworks? Nope. Okay.
All
How do you
right,
know if they would want to?
they would unmute themselves and say, hey, yes, I want to
So we only
talk.
have one person listening?
There are three.
Three. So I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing for consideration of TUP number 20-12379 for the Firethorn fireworks display on July 4th, 2020.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion
Aye.
passes. Motion passes.
We gotta go through all of the
Discussion and
things.
approval.
Here, and here. Okay. All right, so is anything different in the years past?
Nope, it's a carbon copy of the previous year's application.
With different
same
dates?
place, same place, same time, same duration.
Okay.
You approved it last year and it's exactly the same.
Okay.
Same people doing it, the same company that is, so.
Question is if it will be held or not, given the July
True
gathering.
story.
So there's really nothing from a village standpoint that we could put in place to say, just if it's still in place, to do a social distancing to watch the fireworks?
No, that is not our place.
Legally, you could, but there are already state regulations
Right.
that have been put in place. If y'all wanted to supplement that under the state law, the municipalities in North Carolina do have supplemental powers. Some are doing extra things. A lot of it's on the coast is where they're doing it with short-term rentals and other things. You could do some supplemental regulations and regulate, but you already do have the governor's order.
Right, which more than 10 people, so technically, if he releases it by that time, it's fine, but if it's not, it's still under, this event probably would take place from everyone's backyards that live in the area.
Correct. People would still be able to view, but they just shouldn't all congregate in a tight area.
Right.
Or they'd be in violation.
They're
of
already taking
governor's
precautions at the club as it is, but I just was curious because we don't know how long this is gonna go, so, okay.
Okay, so my only problem that I have is that the expiration date on this permit is May 1st, 2019. We have a letter in here dated September 18th, 2019, and the letter is only good for 6 months. Can we pass that date?
Let me see. They might have included the last year.
October, November, December, January, February, March. Yeah, we'll pass the 6 months. So they do not have a valid permit for this application.
You could pass it with a condition
To get it? Okay.
that
that's
they
fine.
either have a valid permit or they're in the approval process.
I mean, I'm sure they were, but I'm sure that they didn't get it because they were just being like, here's the application and use all the paperwork from last year. Like, I'm actually kind of surprised that the applicant is not here to answer questions, but
The letter that follows it, it does say that you can,
yeah, use that for the next 6 months.
yeah, you can use it for the next.
Or past
so,
6
yeah.
months.
So it's not that they reused the same permit from last year, because that's dated September 2019.
No, that's true. Still not good enough.
Sure. You can, as Chaplain said, put as a condition that they need to come back and,
I mean, I'm fine with that, but
So it's not the applicant, it's the actual fireworks company that needs to get the permit, and they get that approved through who?
the fire marshal.
Fire marshal. okay.
Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco,
ATF.
Firearms, and Explosives.
Okay, so
Yeah.
any other questions, concern, Mayor Pro Tem?
Nope, just that they need to get their,
So if it's okay with all of you, I'd like to make a motion to approve the fireworks display on July 4th, 2020, on condition that the applicant get an updated permit to allow to I guess, display the fireworks and set off the fireworks. Anything else you think of?
Along with the 3 findings of facts, and you can do one motion on this.
Okay. Along with the 3 findings of facts and
In the affirmative, yes.
in the affirmative, and do I have to read those?
yeah,
I'm trying to find that.
that the proposed temporary use will not materially endanger the public health,
Welfare and safety, that the proposed temporary use will not have a substantial negative effect on adjoining properties, and that the proposed temporary use is in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the ordinance and preserves its spirit. Further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. For some reason, that was not in my, this was not in my document.
You
Okay.
gotta keep going, like you were like, wait, Joe, you gotta keep, like,
Yeah,
you're
you're in
like
the emotion
4
part.
tabs behind.
I'm sorry, I was looking at, I was going through everything that was there, so, okay. Thank you. All right, next up, we have public comment period. All citizens are welcome to speak, including on the webcast, and only for that, village council, and submit a written copy or comments to the clerk to be properly recorded in the minutes. Speaker groups limited to 3 minutes. Council requested only 1 person speak on behalf of large groups. And although the village council is interested in hearing your concerns, we are not expected to take action or deliberation on any subject matter brought up during public comments segment. Thank you for your consideration. Do we have anyone that signed up to speak?
No, sir.
Anyone on the webcam cast that wants to speak that was not able to be here in person? Okay, looks like no one's. All right, so we will move on to the next item is consent agenda items. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda items as stated.
So moved.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up, we have Village Hall, which I see 0 minutes, so we're not really talking much on that, right? Okay, thank you.
We're still continuing. financial discussions, we just hadn't had time to sit down fully with them.
Okay. Next up, we have unfinished business discussion and consideration of electronic participation and clarification of numbers 2, 5, and 7.
Oh, I had a question about one. Can the entire board call in?
Yes, you can during these. First of all, this emergency ordinance, it only applies in the event of emergency, and that would be an emergency affecting the village of Marvin. And it can be declared federal, state, or county, but it has to impact, or by you, the village of Marvin. And yes, you can all call in. There are certain matters that you should not call in as a precaution unless we discuss things such as a quasi-judicial hearing like we had earlier. We may be able to work with that if we get some consent from the applicant or have some other matters. But these are interim rules that are being put in place by most of the municipalities.
So these rules are only for when there's a state of emergency. Our other rules that we have in our rules of procedure, like calling in, like if you're sick or you're gonna be out of town, those are totally separate.
Totally separate.
Okay.
This supplements, and
Okay.
it does conflict with them, but it only
Okay, I'm good.
conflicts. And normally, you would have to have a quorum here, but only in the case of an emergency would we expand that
Okay.
and allow everybody to call in.
Okay, I'm good. So do we need to approve these?
Yes, and I have another thing. Do y'all want this to apply? Paragraph 1 says, and not to other public bodies, but understand that some of the other bodies follow your rules and you want it to. If
Yeah.
you want to delete that not, so it would
Yeah.
apply to the village of
Because like
Marvin.
Park Rec and Greenway had a meeting and they were all on the phone today,
Well-
so.
If you would like to delete the not,
Okay, I would like to delete the not.
okay.
Okay.
But I think the whole idea behind this calling in is only for, as you mentioned something, where everybody, but for a regular meeting under normal circumstances.
This doesn't apply to.
Right.
Yeah.
But still people can call in as long as they call in, what is it, 6 hours ahead of time? 8 hours?
8 hours.
8
8
hours.
hours ahead of time, notify you, but what we don't want, we still have to have a quorum here for those meetings.
Correct.
For regular meetings, not state of emergency, we still have to have a physical quorum for people to be able to call into, but state of emergency, that's where I was all confused at the work session meeting.
Okay.
So if it's a regular meeting, our rules apply. If it's a state of emergency, these rules apply. And that's what we're in right now.
And they supplement your
They
other rule.
supplement them,
Yes.
right. Okay,
They allow you to do a little bit more for this limited time.
okay.
Okay.
Should these be added to their rules of procedure under the state of emergency?
We could do them as a separate tab behind them.
That
But you-
probably would not be a bad idea.
And quorum, again, this is for emergency. We can do a quorum if we were all in a situation, if we allow that, we can do a quorum by phone on this.
Yes, and you've got to make sure, and there's certain precautions that we're putting here so everybody can hear. And everybody knows and states they can hear.
I mean, like we did it this morning for Park Rec and Greenway, and it worked really well. I thought.
But
I mean,
in that case,
oh,
we'd
okay.
at least have to have a couple staff members organizing that so we can, wouldn't be upon the mayor or any council member to
Correct.
create or host the event. It would be,
No.
Yeah, we can continue to do it like we did this morning. We had the Parks and Greenway meeting, and I was the one in the village hall at the location stated on the calendar, so that if anyone actually did come in person, I would be there, but everyone else was on WebEx, and that recording was fine.
Yeah, I thought it worked fine.
And just like this, I had
Just
well, I was
how
on
they
Ethernet
can-
there, but I
Okay.
had other people's cameras on the screen.
Here it would just be.
and
Okay.
the other one, it says, council members, on number 7, present for the meeting through electronic means will not be permitted to vote on any quasi-judicial matters, which is what we deal with earlier, and any other thing they're able to vote, just to be clear.
Right.
That was our,
Because that's the
Deliberation.
quasi-judicial is like a hearing with sworn witnesses.
Right.
And
Okay.
that's difficult to have on an electronic basis.
Okay.
any other questions from the council or concerns?
Nope.
No questions. I just had, well, I do have one. So for the budget meeting coming up, I need to be present for that, for the vote on the budget for 2021, right?
No,
Not if you call in time and 8 hours ahead of time, you'll be able, it's my understanding, right? Because we allow it for we allow him to vote as long as he called in, because these are special. What we
Correct.
don't want to get to, Bob, as my understanding is where we're all calling in and not showing up for these meetings, so
Gotcha,
it's
yeah.
gonna happen occasionally, but we all want to encourage.
The only
And-
thing
and-
the only thing we can't do is quasi judicial.
Right, quasi judicial.
Otherwise, but during the state of emergency, we can all be at home and we can all vote except for
quasi judicial.
quasi judicial.
Yeah, but
Hopefully, I mean, it's.
I thought the intent for this, when we passed this rule, was
Where
for,
did you find it?
if for two reasons you could not be here.
This
One
is different. We literally are in a state of emergency right now.
Right.
So all this applies. All of us could sit in our houses
Right.
and have the same conversation.
I agree, I understand.
But our other rules were,
That's what he's
if you're
asking.
sick, well, yeah, but we're in a state of emergency, so it doesn't matter.
But, see, we're not in a state of
Yes,
emergency,
but
that's what he's
He
asking.
can still call in because he's letting us know 8 hours. Now, if I decided to and Jamie decided to, then we wouldn't have quorum
Right,
and we couldn't have a meeting. But my guess is we'll still be in a state of
well,
emergency on
eventually,
May
we
12th.
should have 5 members, but if 2, we don't wanna get into habit. The intent was, there should be reasons, that you are calling in, one being sick, but can take a phone
Right.
call, and the other is you are traveling out of town.
But if we're not in a state of emergency, no, just listen to me. If we're not in a state of emergency and there's no sickness, then Bob should be able to come in.
Agree, that's what I'm saying, we're saying the same things, I'm just being clear, forget about what this is, the state emergency. I think Bob was asking when we're in a regular meetings where no state of emergency, to be clear on the rules, he can call in and can vote if he calls in and thing, but what we don't want to, in those circumstances, we do not want to get council to the point where nobody in council is showing up when we're not in a state of emergency. 3 can still show up, we will have 5, 2 could just say, hey, I'm just not gonna show up.
You still want to
You gotta
encourage
have a
vote.
legitimate reason.
Right.
But in our rules, in our regular rules, it's if you're sick or if you're out of town.
Right,
That's it. And Bob doesn't know if he's gonna be sick or out. He may know if he's gonna be out of town, but he knows if he's gonna be sick on May 12th or not. So,
Can I just ask this, just because I'm leery of someone finding the loophole. If I say I'm out of town, let's say I moved to Maine, and I go, I'm out of town. I moved to Maine.
You're disqualified to hold office if you have moved your domicile outside of this.
Okay,
Maybe if you moved to your beach house for 3 months, but.
well,
not
I'm just
you.
trying to, again, I'm sorry, I'm jaded by what is past events, but I'm just trying to cover, you're right, as long as it states in there that if I move out of town, if I do go to my summer house for,
the summer.
yeah, May to September, am I calling in each time?
Correct. These are your procedural rules, so if there's an abuse, you can change these quickly, because these aren't state law, these are your procedural rules. You raise a valid point, though. If you go to Maine for 3 months while it's warm, before it gets cold, and you're calling in for 3 months at a time, it's probably not what this board wants. It's allowed right now, but they would still, because you'd be traveling or out of town.
Okay,
But y'all can modify these quickly.
okay.
All right, we good?
I'm good.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to approve the electronic participation packet of information as amended.
You only made one amendment.
Yep.
Y'all requested that.
okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay. Next up, we have new business, discussion and consideration of a resolution number RS-2020-05-01 to change the compensation for village council. Christina
Chaplain.
and Chaplain, I'm sorry.
I can take this. Currently, the board is compensated on an annual basis. All of your other boards, your planning board, PRNG, and your board of adjustment, which hasn't met in several years, are paid on a per meeting. Village council can change the way that you're compensated, and there was discussion of having you compensated by the meeting or some type of hybrid. And what I would propose is some type of hybrid, because as a council member, you still have duties and responsibilities outside the meeting. You're still a council member, but you can look at the terms, and I want some instruction from you to bring this back at a later date. The implementation on this is strange. You can't change it right now anyway. You change this with the adoption of the budget, and it becomes effective. You can pass the resolution at your next meeting, but it is still going to be contingent upon and subject to you confirming and approving in the budget the compensation, because that's how you change your compensation. One of the ways that I'll do this right now, the mayor is $400 a month, mayor pro tem $350 a month, and council members $300 a month. You could have the mayor at $300 a month and $75 per meeting. Based upon this current year, there are 27 meetings. And I was just doing the math, that would be 5,625, pretty close to the 4,800. But you're going to have some meetings that are going to get canceled. You're going to have some meetings that you're out of town, and you're going to have some that you're sick. So it would be pretty close. If you go too tight with the attendance per meeting, you're going to decrease your compensation. And maybe that's what you want to do, but most council members are already severely underpaid. So you just need to be careful with that. And we can do this several ways. We could allow you a certain number of absences or have excused absences. But it gets more complicated when you start doing it.
I think that's what you have to do. I'm hoping, and this is what I wrote in my notes, that hopefully we have addressed the issue of people getting paid and not showing up. But that doesn't mean that somebody's not going to abuse it in the future. And I don't want to have to wait until every budget season to figure that out. So for me, it seems like a hybrid of some a month, but then per meeting, and then after you've missed, I don't know why you're frowning, X number of meetings, then you don't, you get your monthly stipend, but you don't get your meeting stipend. And it has to be like, 5 meetings, 6, I don't know. But we need to decide on that. But I think that it would make more sense, and I know it's gonna be a budgeting, or it's gonna be a payroll nightmare, sorry. But I think it should be a lower amount per month and a higher number per meeting.
That is,
that's my opinion.
that is in y'all's discretion. It is unusual.
Yeah.
Most council members are paid lump sum the way you did. I looked around a little bit and I didn't find another. Most of them do their the planning board and their advisory boards on a per meeting, but most councils are done this, and it's easier for budgeting because you throw it up. But if you did a certain amount that you're talking about, it said you still get it unless you miss 5 meetings, but you'd still want some type of sliding scale, I think. Then you get penalized per meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I
would-
think you have a smaller lump sum and a higher per meeting payment. Because then after you've missed X number, then your lump sum's smaller than and then you're just not getting paid. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess I was thrown when you said, I think we took care of the matter of not.
Well,
being-
hopefully we did, but
But it took so long
No,
to do
that's-
it,
but
so
that's-
you wanna do this, we wanna be able to do this on the fly.
that's what I just said. I don't want to have to address
Right.
this every budget season because somebody else abuses it.
But I think you get into a point is, we don't know when we're gonna be excused, we're gonna be sick, we don't know when we're gonna be, let me finish, when we're gonna go out of town on a thing, and if we have more than 5 unexcused, so it's either gonna be an excused absence or not, but if you have more than 5 excused absences, you are at the discretion of the rest of the council to just, stop,
That's what I said.
put a hold on it until you start showing up to meetings again. That's where I'm trying to go with it when I look at it, because I think if the majority of council agrees yeah, Joe was sick, or Joe was emergency, out of town meeting, that's an excused absence.
I agree, that's exactly what I said. You and I are saying the same thing.
You would write it in as excused, but not define excused, and leave that up to the board.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know that I would even go 5 absences.
Sorry.
No, I said 5 earlier, because I look at what we just went through, and I'm looking at 5 absences, and we're 3 months down the road, and you're still getting paid, and you haven't shown up for 3 months. So I'm not sure I'd say 5, I think I'd make it like 3.
But if someone is excused on an emergency, and if they made an effort to call
Yeah.
in, that would be an excuse. But if they don't make an effort to call in
But-
and they are indisposed, then I agree, 3 makes sense.
I don't think that there are going to be, with the option to call in for a meeting, I don't think there should be very many unexcused absences. I know that I don't think I've missed 1 meeting that has been held. Now, that doesn't mean that, I'm not gonna go out of town, or I'm not gonna be sick, but I think if I'm sick or I'm out of town, I'm gonna know it, and then I can call in for the meeting. So for me, I don't think there's gonna be very many opportunities to, to not at least be able to call in. Now, there may be some, I may go out of the country and I, don't have internet or can't get through on the phone, whatever. But I will have emailed the clerk and let her know that I will not be at the meeting. Like, we can't just not have, communication, and I think that's kind of where we're going with it.
That's a great point, because then if there is no communication, what do we do then when we're not hearing back from any of the council members? They're not responding to anything. Do you take action? Does the council take action, or we
Yeah.
bring it up on the agenda to take action?
I mean-
Maybe give us the right to take action in the middle of in the year, and someone all of a sudden goes AWOL, and we have a right to bring it up to suspend payments.
Well,
During
that's-
that. As long as we have the right to do that, we can take action on it or not, but that's what I'd like to see, the right to suspend payments, because we had no right, we were told by you that we gotta wait till the budget stops or take a,
We have to pay people, but that's why you do it per
policy
meeting.
in place, because
Yeah.
if you have the right to suspend, then you're changing somebody's compensation during the course, and you could by a majority vote suspend somebody, or their
showing up.
for showing up. I think you need to have established rules, and that's why I like the 3 or more, and let you decide if it's excused. Not that you should be able to decide
I think
if you're
that's
not gonna
fair.
pay.
I think that's fair.
But again, I think it should be a lower amount, like if we're just using the example that you put in here.
Yeah,
The
those
mayor's
are-
got 300 a month and 75, I think it should be sorry Christina, 150 a month and then 85, whatever the math works out to, I don't know what the math is, but I think it should be a lower amount per month, and then if you show up, you get paid, and if you don't show up and it's unexcused after, you still get 3, you get 3 freebies, but after that, then the council's they're not showing up, we haven't heard from them, we're not paying them anymore, except their, 150 that they get per month, and that's it.
Can you work with that, or is that
We
pretty
can,
clear?
do y'all want do y'all want to keep it close to the current compensation level? Because that's another issue that you have.
Yeah,
We can do the math.
I mean, didn't we
We went up $100 on each position
Okay.
proposed in the budget, so.
so
what
close,
you
so
add,
close to
just
that,
add $100.
yeah.
Keep the math similar, because now we're going to have excused absences. This one
We
is
did.
drafted,
Yeah,
was a higher compensation, but it was taken away for each absence. We
does
can,
that make sense? Is that good,
Yeah.
Jamie?
And you were reading
Can't hear
from
it.
what
I
there?
can't hear what his brain's.
And I don't know if my compensation, you were right on that, I'm not sure what
I got-
it was. I think
I got an email from old compensation, but it may have been,
it may,
been
yeah.
dated.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say, I wanna say consecutive. Why do for some reason I wanna say, if there's 3 consecutive, excused or unexcused. I don't know, I'm jaded by what happened, I'm trying to protect us from what happened. I have no problem with someone not, missing a meeting. Listen, for whatever reason, meeting, even after we come back, go, you know what, I had it on my calendar, on my phone for this, and it wasn't there. I can live with that. But when you consecutively miss meetings over a period of 3 meetings, 2 meetings, three, if you consecutively miss 3 meetings, there has to be some type of penalty to that. And I don't know, you know, again, I'm just going up by big government, going, you know, take it. There should be some kind of financial, but then some type of other reprimand or something to say, we're holding you accountable. If I miss 3 consecutive meetings and this go out, it shouldn't be that I just walk back in here like nothing happened. I don't know what,
I agree.
I don't know what other people do.
I mean, we can always,
It's just
we can always
it's a sad
censor
state
somebody,
because
but that's
we're
just,
changing a total dynamic because of one bad apple.
You're trying to be proactive because the
Well,
process.
we're trying to be proactive so we don't let it happen again, so
Yeah.
someone just doesn't go, you know what, because it does affect the rest of us. It does affect if Bob says, hey, I'm going snow skiing, and I go, you know what, I just don't feel like going.
Yeah,
Well,
then
the
we can't do
government-
anything
Your functioning
financial.
government here is done, it shuts down.
It's already slow as it is. You know, to your point about the consecutive, I think what caps it on top of that is the lack of communication. So, you know, I could see, who knows, someone could get stuck out of the country for a number of months because they're quarantined, but they're trying to communicate and say, and they can't communicate. I mean, we could have a situation like that where I couldn't get out of a country because of what's going on now, but I'm trying to communicate. It's my lack of communication and the fact that I'm not there for goodness sake. So I think it's a number of different factors that come into it, but it could happen, and I agree with you. We are making these rules and we could go drive ourselves crazy trying to get to that point.
I'm fine if you wanna put consecutive in there. I think that's fine. I think 3's fine, even if it's not consecutive. So I'm good.
At the end of the day, we said at the beginning of the year, we schedule everything, and we were looking at who's gonna be on vacation when, and you're all announcing that, and we've tried to work with each other, and then just to not show up with all the information we get from the clerk and when meetings are coming and stuff, why you wouldn't be there, I wouldn't understand it too. It's like, I rarely have missed a meeting unless I was actually sick, I think, a couple of months ago, so. But I agree, and it's just hard, it's hard to police that, I think is fair to say. How you write that in verbiage or legal language or rules and procedures makes it very challenging.
It does, and the other thing, I agree, there needs to be accountability, especially, and y'all get to set the terms. We want to, and I think we could do the 3 consecutive and then the 3 unexcused. We don't want to make it too hard to where it's an accounting nightmare, but I think when we keep it in groups and lumps, you can.
Well, I got you.
But I like the, I think you can do both, is what I'm saying. The 3 consecutive, you don't get paid, and then if you have 3 or more unexcused, you don't get paid for the ones you missed. I think we can do both of those.
And when does that start back up? When you start showing back up for meetings, is that what you're thinking? Or like, you don't get paid, meaning boom, you don't get paid, period? Or
You need to define the 3, and you could do a calendar year, or you could do your budget year. I would probably do your budget year, which would be June 30th through July 1st through June 29th or June 30th.
what are you saying you need to do what?
That's when the unexcused 3 or more within any budget year.
Yeah, because it's got to start with the budget, right?
Yeah, that's how the 3 in a row is 3 in a row, but the 3 during it, you have to have a time period.
I would say the budget, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I just hated that we couldn't take action on this
Right.
financially because it was a budget issue. I mean, no, it was an accountability issue is what it was. I mean, if it's a budget, it just goes back into the budget. And it's the taxpayers' money at the end of the day. And I think anyone would agree that they shouldn't have got paid and stuff. So that's the problem we have. But I see your point.
State law was put in there for a few people trying to dictate it. When somebody ran on something, they thought they were going to get a salary of this, or they bump it higher. It was put in for that purpose. But sometimes they don't really think about real life situations, and that's how we have to adopt and modify.
You know what, Can you put anything like a letter of reprimand goes in your file as a government official or government?
What you could do under your ethics policy,
Or public, you know, you got your public hearing, your next public hearing, you're, and they're going, I'd like to recognize that, you know, Mayor Polino decided that he 3 unexcused absences along with no communication as to where his whereabouts. It's not appropriate and not suitable for this council to allow that to happen. And it's almost like a public censure and be done with it. I mean, but it's there to say you're being held accountable in a public forum.
But I want to be on top of that, be able to take action and say, we're gonna take, we have the right to vote on it and take.
So the public knows in that
Yes.
public forum, but by the way, I just want you to know that you've just forfeited 3.
3 months of payment for not showing up at the last meeting. And that should be voted on. And it's a case-by-case basis. It's kind of where I was going with it, but
I'm fine with that.
you know, because we don't know what we don't know. We're pretty much trying to figure out, you know, we saw what happened. We thought it was wrong. We couldn't do nothing about it. But what we're trying to do,
Filling the loopholes.
Filling the
And
loopholes.
that just gets crazy nasty because you can sit here for the next 3 months
and try and write that up
and.
as an ordinance.
this needs to be focused on compensation, but any type of reprimand, that could be under your ethics policy or any other
Okay.
rule, because you have the duty, it states in the ethics policy that you're supposed to prepare for meetings, attend meetings, and carry your own load. And you could go that route if you wanted to make a proclamation of some sort.
Okay. So can you,
How in the
do
hell
you,
did we
do-
go 9-10 months? I'm sorry. I'm sorry to be cynical, but how in the hell did we go 10 months?
do you have enough information to come back with some options with what we've given you? Like,
I do.
Are we clear enough for
Yes,
you?
flip the compensation away from the example on the numbers basically, but make them work to they're similar with current compensation
Yeah.
levels and make sure I have the current numbers.
Mhm.
Put in the no compensation for 3 consecutive, put in no compensation for unexcused 3 or more within a budget year, and then the board has the authority to determine what is unexcused.
Yeah, and I would say make the monthly lower, the meeting higher, like per meeting
Right.
higher,
You-
yeah.
You're basically flipping.
Incentivize
Yeah.
them to come to meetings.
Correct.
There you go.
Isn't that terrible?
And actually be
Incentivize
seen and
them
be
to
heard
do
and
that.
actually be addressed.
And the accountability just comes in.
Yeah, okay,
All right.
go with that. Do you need a,
Bob, do you have any other comments?
No, I'm listening to everybody's input, and everybody has a good opinion and a good viewpoint. I guess I kind of borrow from everybody. I guess my first question would be, just as a thought, what does Weddington, what does Waxhaw, just for curiosity, do with this? Rather than reinvent the wheel, how do they handle council people that don't show up?
they probably
But
don't,
the other comment I have
they don't have people that don't show up.
it depends on what would, in other words, the way I looked at just the way I look at my serving the community, I'm compensated X amount a month, okay? Now, if we sit and we say, hey, we're gonna have meetings, not meetings, but like get-togethers with the public, you know, like the coffee with Joe kind of thing, that we, you know, obviously is kibosh for the moment, but, you know, we talked about having meetings like that. I didn't expect, you know, being used to many years of being paid salary, I didn't expect any more money or any less money. I just figured, okay, we're going to meet with the public. That's what we did. So when I look at, you know, serving the community in a month's period of time, that's what I paid. If it's an emergency, and, you know, for example, yourself, Joe, but I'm saying for any of us, there's an emergency where we're having to be heard by the community 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's part of our compensation for the month. To break it down seems like it gets complicated, but my thought is, when we're talking about meetings, and Jamie's brought up a good point, you know, if we have a meeting, like we had a meeting today, okay? Now we have a meeting at the end of the month. That's another meeting. That's the work session. Well, that person doesn't attend that meeting. Okay, well, come into May, there's another council meeting. Well, technically, that's 3 meetings that we were required to be at. I can't imagine going 3 months paying somebody. It's like, and again, I believe, again, I'm borrowing from what you're saying too, Joe, that communication is the key. If you don't hear from me and I didn't show up tonight, and then there's a work section meeting going to be at the end of this month, and you don't hear from me at all, and then all of a sudden here comes the 3rd meeting, which is in May, and you don't hear from me at all, I think at that point, something, however it's done legally, can be said in fashion that if you're missing 3 meetings in a row and there's no communication and the meetings are broken down by work sessions, I'm not saying monthly council meetings, I'm thinking work sessions too. If you're totally just abandoning, you know, your responsibility serving the community, you're done. And I think it's the next meeting, which would be the 4th one, you voted, you know, or at that next work session in May, you would be, hey, what do we do with this person? And then the next council meeting, which would be in June, boom, you're gone. I don't mean to make it simplistic. That's my only 2 cents on it. I don't think it needs to be complicated, but that's my own opinion. That's all. I agree with what everybody's saying.
Okay, so you're good with having Chaplin work up the compensation?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you need a motion for that?
No, I think just instruction, because y'all got to approve this at a later date.
Yeah, so just make a motion to have the attorney continue to work on this and
Sure.
come back at a later date with more solid numbers per our instructions.
And a defined rules and
Yeah.
procedures. Okay. All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next up, consider approval of statewide stay-at-home order, executive order number 121.
Well, no, it's actually just for y'all to consider the authorization of designating me to define who is an essential employee for the governor's order that was passed out, 121. It's listed in there on page, number of course. It's section 2.
So you want us to say, Christina, you can make that decision?
Yes.
Okay, Christina, you can make that decision.
That's all I need.
I make a motion that Christina can identify essential employees for the village of Marvin
During a,
during a state of emergency or stay-at-home order per the,
for any governmental, like if it could be,
It is a shocking provision that was in there. It makes sense on paper, but then you think the governing body usually doesn't know. Think of Charlotte or some of these larger towns, the governing body. So it gets sent on some of the municipal websites, you know, like, I think we're just gonna get our council to delegate the authority to our town administrator or town manager, because they're the ones that really know. So it's just a delegation of authority, so there's proper legality for who's essential.
doesn't that automatically happen if we change our charter?
You would think so, but this emergency ordinance said that the governing body decides who's essential.
And they're all individuals, so you can't blanket it. It has to apply to just this executive order.
okay.
So would that be under, would we change her job description too? Did that make sense to change her job description going forward?
To what?
Town manager. I mean,
Well,
that
in the
would
town
be a
manager,
position.
she has
No, because I think we're gonna have to do this every time.
every time.
Yeah, this is just, and the next emergency ordinance from the governor may be different. It was just a little different. I think it works maybe for some other type of governmental entities, but ones that have a lot of employees that don't have boards that do day-to-day operations, that
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so you want to make a
I did.
motion?
I made it.
Okay, further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up is discussion of Tullamore parking lot maintenance and contract to revive maintenance agreement. Rohit?
He just walked out. He's coming back.
Hey. I was out there testing the call quality. It's pretty good, actually. So, we, they want to remove the parking lot. And, the HOA doesn't want to do this.
They do or do not?
They do. They're the ones that brought it up. They want, to return it to a field, and they're saying people are using the lot for various, delinquent activities like
Nefarious.
loitering and donuts, driving donuts and stuff. So this is kind of a twofold conversation. One, we have to revise the maintenance plan again, but Stantec's already done it. It was very cheap because it was very simple, and they did it one day. And the other thing is to ask the council if they would be also willing to take on that request that Tullamore will transfer the maintenance of the parking lot to Tullamore, and then they will remove the parking lot.
I mean, I'm fine with that, as long as we have access to that trailhead. We need to have some sort of in writing that we've got access, that we can get in there, we can do maintenance, and that they know that we're gonna be doing that.
And then cars are gonna be, for whatever reason, we're not gonna take it. I mean, so certain things that are gonna happen, domino effect, like if the other neighborhood across the street wants to allow people to do the lacrosse practices and stuff, by default, it's interesting, they allow them to do that, but they don't want the parents to park in their neighborhood, and they ask them to park in there, which is what really I think was behind all of this. Bob, do you mind muting your phone there? We're getting a lot of feedback.
Which
I'm on mute, thank you.
Okay.
Which I agree with you, but Tullamore, I think, knows the risk, and they're willing to take that.
Yeah,
And at that point, like, that's not our problem. Like, if they've got people parking everywhere, then that's the neighborhoods, they can,
Right,
call a tow
and
truck or whatever they wanna do.
Which will move me over to Chapman. Do you see any repercussions that the village would be held liable for, if the HOA is making this decision, we're in agreement, we're not gonna maintain this anymore, all we're asking for is a trailhead, we're gonna maintain the trail. Any other
No, I think,
issues that come up by removing this,
and I've spoken with Rohit about this, I think we just need to put a supplemental provision. They will maintain it, but it'll be maintained as an open space and open field, but public parking will still be allowed, if that's the direction of the board.
Public parking where?
They wanna
In the
get
field?
public parking out.
Okay, they want to have no public parking, yeah, because that was my understanding, it would just go to a common area. The only issue you have is, where will people access it? Are there other access points?
No, not right now. What they do is what would happen is they would park along the street, in that main turn-in street off the roundabout, park there, and either walk to access that, or they would park on that street, walk across the street to a big field where another neighborhood allows people to practice. And it was a way, it got crazy there for a while, and this was a way, and I think was the reasoning behind some council members who happened to live in that neighborhood and got a lot of blowback from their own neighbors saying that we don't want all these cars parking when we allow these kids to practice lacrosse. So they, as council members, and I'm not gonna say they did it for this reason, but at some point, someone made the comment, I remember that, oh, you may wanna bring your horse trailer in here and take your horse down this path or something. It got so they needed a space, and they made up a reason that they needed the space, but I think underlying the reason is it was creating problems all around where the roundabout is now, and then there's no place for anyone to park. What is going to happen, because that community is still gonna, I'm sure, gonna complain about cars parking there while people have their practices, so to speak. They're by default are gonna park in Tullamore, and we're gonna get a lot of complaints to kind of control that, and it's, quite frankly, right now, a public road. And, what happens when that happens? When they start coming and complaining, they're the ones that are asking for the parking to go away. And I totally understand why they want to get rid of that, because of all the issues that are happening. It's almost like a common area for people to congregate.
Congregate.
Yep, and create
And if y'all don't have the staff and the resources, and you don't have, you've got some sheriff, but you don't have the village police to patrol at a higher level, y'all have got to weigh that. You don't have a duty or an obligation to provide public parking at this area. And if you think it creates more of a public nuisance and public problems, then I think you can take it away and allow them.
Which would go to curb and gutter, which is you would want to remove that entranceway there and put a whole curb. Who's gonna pay for that? Did we decide that, or is that the village? Because that's what you're gonna wanna do. You don't wanna create an area where, right now, it goes down where it's like a driveway that goes into there.
Okay.
So you're gonna wanna replace that with a curb, because people don't drive up over curbs, and they're gonna do whatever they're gonna do down there, but we gotta create,
I mean,
or somebody's gotta create that, and there's a
Christina
cost.
said that it's because they're in our road system, but I think we can talk to them and do some sort of cost sharing to do that.
Yeah, we could
Okay.
probably arrange.
Just so they understand, that's how you're gonna get people stopping. If they just put a field there, people park in the field. If you have a driveway that continues to go there, they're still gonna go there.
Cut donuts and all
Yep.
the other things.
Yeah, tear it up or whatever, so.
So, I mean, I think there needs to be some stipulations that curb's gotta be a curb and not a driveway.
And I'd almost continue with some trees, something to prevent.
Well, they can put that in there if that's what they wanna do, but we have to have some sort of agreement with them that we've got access to
Right.
get in there and maintain the trails and.
We can do that. We can do that, and we can also put that in the maintenance plan. They added a strip for us to come to the trail from the road.
Okay.
Okay.
Because currently the trail starts at the back of the parking.
Yeah, no, yeah, I know, right, well, yeah. But let's just make sure we get all of that in writing and an agreement, but, I mean, I'm fine with letting them have it.
Okay.
And I think you could do that. If they're responsible, they would be responsible, because instead of curb and gutter, they could do landscaping, trees or something. But it's gonna be on them and their desire to control. And I think
Yeah, then
If
they
they're
can do
maintaining
whatever
it-
they wanna do.
if they're maintaining it, it's their
It's their
obligation.
responsibility.
I just want to be clear, I don't think we should be having, because we already spent the money to put that parking lot in there, because that was in there before a lot of those homes were built. That was on the plat. Now they're having us remove it, which is fine, but we need to make sure that we're not, I don't think we should now be spending more village money on that to correct that. And make that clear, I guess. Because we'd want to make that clear with them. Question? Okay. Any other comments, Bob?
Sorry, working my mute button. No, sir.
Okay, all right. All right, next up, we're going to number 4, new business, change location for May 12th regular meeting.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to change the May 12th regular meeting from Village Hall to Banks Fellowship Hall at 6:30.
Okay, further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, we'll move that to 12th. Barbie can take care of that for notices, stuff. Next up, open topics, we have sheriff officer contract. This one's me, real quick. I had the opportunity, got a call from Anthony Berman, who was a former councilman, and we had a nice long chat, and I appreciate him reaching out to me and kind of giving me a little bit of the history. But to try to make this as concise as possible, when we looked at, there was an issue at the work session that there were 3 officers were supposed to be provided. At the time, if you go back, they were looking at 2 separate budgets. There was a budget for what's called the now famous donut hole. There was litigation going on if we could take over certain areas of annexation. So they were working off a significantly different budget. And in that case, if it included the donut holes, that they would be required to offer 3 officers at that time. But that did not pass in the court of law. So that's why we have the donut hole, so we're not required. So they were working off of 2 budgets, and I don't even think that I don't even think the contract was really signed at the appropriate times. But if you do the math on 3 officers at $70,000, came in right around $200,000 is why they had that. But then they went back and reverted back to the budget then at the time was about $1 million. So in a sense, they were kind of parallel going, waiting to hear back to what the state was going to do about the annexation. So in that contract, which again, I'd like to revisit a lot of things that's written up in that contract with an out clause for us, not 90-day, but maybe even sooner, because what surrounding communities do will affect us. If we go forward with a 1 cent tax increase and we add an officer, and then Wesley Chapel decides to ban and get rid of all their officers and that program, guess what? We're basically paying our money. We have to have some control, and the language has to change in there. So I'd be very interested in what Sheriff Kathy comes back with, and we definitely need to update that contract. But I just want to do a quick shout out to Anthony for reaching out to me. He listened to one of the meetings and thought he had some good input on that, and I appreciate his time kind of making that clear. Any questions? Bob, anyone?
No, thank you for doing that, I appreciate it. No questions for me.
Okay, and that's all I had on that. Next up, agenda items, review of action items, that's Barbie.
Okay, this is what I heard, and add more if I didn't pick up on it. I will work with Chaplain on the vacant council member seat advertisement and forward applications to village council once I receive them. I will also add the ordinance amending the village charter to change the form of government to allow the mayor to vote on all matters on the May 12th meeting. And then I will also add the resolution RS 2020-0501 to change compensation of village council to the May 12th meeting. And also I will place the public hearing notice for the annual budget and the EJ for public hearing on May 12th, and also at the Banks Fellowship Hall.
You had changed the May 12th meeting.
I have to do that anyway because the notice has to go out.
Okay.
But I'll add that to that.
Okay, any other comments or?
No, I'm good.
Okay, council comments.
Oh wait, hold on, I want to go over the
You need to go over the
I'm sorry.
review ongoing action items.
Review ongoing action items, I'm sorry.
So I'm just looking through here, if we can update this a little bit, the second one, calendar options. Barbie, obviously with what's going on with our stay-at-home orders, we don't have that anytime soon. Can you put together, maybe starting, let's say September, just get through the summer?
You want to do something like next 6 months for
Starting
at September?
September.
Okay.
And then if everybody can get back to Barbie with their dates, like in a, timely fashion,
For which one, Kim?
the council coffee, the second one from the top.
And correct me if I'm wrong, the whole idea was 2 council members to come to the village hall to meet with their residents once a month
Yeah.
or twice a month, however you want to do that.
Yeah.
And I think that what I had provided you was a morning opportunity and an evening opportunity
Yeah.
for those
I think
who
that's
couldn't
right.
come.
Yeah, and I'd say twice a month, and that way, like, I can do it, in the mornings one month, and the next month, and then, I would say twice a month, and then, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm doing it twice a month, but it gives the opportunity for other people on council to sit down.
Barbie, I'll call you probably tomorrow and we can go through some dates and just let me know, and I'll just make notes on my own calendar. Because I'm pretty flexible when it
Okay.
comes to these things. In fact, if I'll just go on record now, if someone had something come up on a coffee council, what we're trying to do, I'm probably an easy fill-in for that. So if you need that, that's, just leave it
But I'd
at
say
that.
start in September, let's get
Yeah,
through.
And I would agree too. I'm in the same boat as Joe, although, here we are with this situation, so I don't know how we handle it. That's why I thought maybe we were pushing this aside, but,
That's,
I'm available. I like the idea of maybe 2 council members twice a month, you know, so you have like 2 separate dates.
Yep.
I think that's what we're thinking of, right?
Yeah, and that's why I said start in September, Bob.
Okay, I didn't hear that.
That's
Thank
okay,
you.
that's okay. Then, everybody go with that one?
Yep.
Okay, then the next one, Barbie, the special joint meeting
Yeah.
notices, I would just knock off the planning board since we've already had that. And then we'll look.
We'll need to
the
figure out some
fall.
dates. It might be easier if you all let me know the dates that you might want to do for the joint with PRG, and then I can,
Should we try to do a WebEx since we're all at home? I mean, do we need to be in a room? I mean, we could always try that.
I don't know, they were all able to figure it out this morning, so.
Yeah.
yeah,
Seems
I mean,
like-
I just need to know what kind of date you're looking for, if you're looking for something
I mean,
in
is everybody okay
the
doing
rest
it?
of this month or next month.
Yeah, I mean, is everybody good doing it, like, through the WebEx? Bueller?
I am. I'm fine.
Bueller.
I'm good with that.
Bueller.
I'll need help on the machine, so I'm sure,
One of the girls will know how to do it.
I'm sure they will.
Yeah. All right, I would say, let's take a look. Barbie, send out some dates, not next week, because either we're all at home, it's still a holiday week. But look towards the next week, like start like the week of the 20th and kind of send out your doodle thingy.
Well, no one answers the doodle poll. That's the reason why I
Oh.
wanted to get some dates from you guys, because I don't get any response
Okay,
off of it. So, and I don't know if it's because they're not getting the link, or the link's not opening. I just don't know.
okay.
So
Mary-
it's
Mary
easier
was
for me to just send
ignoring
an email to everybody.
you. Okay, so do you want dates from us now?
If you have some, or you can send me some dates if you want to look at your calendars. Especially if you're not going to do anything this week and you're looking for something at the week of the 20th, then just shoot me some dates and I'll shoot them to PRG, and then we can go from there.
Okay. I'm free the week of the 20th, so
Okay.
you let me know, like,
I'll put you down for that.
yeah, okay. Let's knock off the complete stuff from here. We've got,
So you want me to take those off?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Deputy contract, we're still working on that. Meeting with Jay Schuler, have you had that, Christina?
No, it was, I don't think we were actually gonna have a meeting, we were just trying to get some questions answered, which
Have we gotten, I feel like we've gotten those
we've
answered.
gotten that.
All right, so let's knock that one off. Village Hall, we're still working on that one. AMT, yeah.
That's been done.
AMT has.
AMT survey?
To assess, that, I don't think the action was actual environmental issues, I think it was to look at and make sure that the site, no, it was environmental.
It was environmental
Y'all wanted
issues.
to-
Yeah, we want to keep
Yes.
going, okay. Can we
So
add
is
in
it-
there about following up with the other church?
Yes,
We need to add that to the list.
Add what? What are we-
Following up with, is it the Methodist Church?
Weddington.
Yeah.
And that's been done, Barbie, it just, we won't have an update until after May.
Yeah, let's throw it
Follow
on
up
there.
with the Methodist church over here? Okay.
Road signage, we've gotten all the prices out of them.
We have,
Alright, leave that.
So did I hear for me to take the one off about the environmental issue?
no,
No, keep that on?
Yeah, you can knock road signage off. Actually, leave that one on and change it to talk to HOAs.
Road signage and change it to talk to HOAs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Spring break, are they still doing the subdrain then? Sweet.
They're doing what?
the
The
subdrain.
subdrain for the roundabout so that we can
Oh,
put
nice.
in irrigation. Didn't we revise the tree planting list?
That's a work in progress.
Still?
Will Smith is gonna be doing that,
Okay.
get back to us.
Leash law
That's been updated already.
So it can come off now?
and done? Okay. Alright, I still wanna know where my lights are. That's not on there. I need my lights. Oh, you've got coffee with council on here twice, Barbie.
Well, maybe I meant to put lights there.
Maybe.
Okay. Maybe that was what was supposed to be there was
Maybe.
lights.
I
'Cause I'm-
Lights on the roundabouts. I just wanna know where we are with lights on the
On
roundabouts.
roundabouts and or streets, isn't there?
No, cause we've got, yes, that too, but we've gotten the ones on the roundabouts approved, they just haven't installed them yet, so I wanna know where we are with that, but yes, Barbie, you can add another one after that about the lights,
Lights for designated area.
yeah.
And wasn't there a crosswalk too, that, what do you call it? They were gonna do a
Pedestrian refuge?
pedestrian refuge?
Yeah, put pedestrian refuge in there as another one, Barbie, and Christina's gotten some information and she's gonna maybe talk about that in her administrator's report.
I can, it's
Perfect.
in the road report.
Oh, it's in the road report, oh,
Lights.
somewhere, oh, there it is, right there, I see it, sorry.
Or,
Okay, I'm good.
safety areas, I'm just gonna put that under
That's
safety
fine.
areas.
That is so helpful, like.
This is
I know-
really
I know-
nice.
Like,
I
I
was
know
gonna
this is a
comment
pain,
that.
but this is so helpful so that I don't forget to ask about stuff, so
Right.
this is like great.
And not that you may be talking about it, but I'm adamant about this resolution that we put together for.
It's in there, they're still working on
I
it,
didn't
aren't
see
they?
it.
No, the resolution opposing?
Yeah.
No. John, you talking about the one opposing, fluff material during the?
Yeah, pork barrel spending and stuff that
No.
we put together. I was just curious of I know you talked about going to the League of Municipalities and maybe help us.
Yeah, and y'all didn't actually take any action on it, so do y'all want me to pursue?
I do, and I'd love to get on a phone call with them and figure out, because I kind of have my ideas of where I'd like this to go. I mean, as far as, I look at a resolution as a formal complaint, this resolution is a formal complaint.
Alright, well then you guys talk to the league about it, can you guys?
So we'll get together, I don't know if I need Chaplain's help, but what he's looking for at the last work session was essentially in a nutshell, a resolution opposing unaffiliated stuff during an emergency crisis. So.
Pork barrel spending, basically.
Pork or cork?
Pork barrel spending from our government when we're in an emergency situation to only address issues that are directly related to it, and, you know.
You want me to put that in here as,
Yeah, it's a
as
follow-up
that,
thing.
as that say?
Yeah, you said,
Pork.
they call it pork
Pork
barrel
barrel?
spending, yeah.
Pork barrel.
Pork barrel?
Yeah.
And then, hold on, no,
That's all right.
are you done with that
Yeah,
topic?
yeah.
Okay, and then also Barbie, on this list, let's just add the Tullamore parking lot, just so when we're done with it, we can check it off.
Sure.
I like to check things
Just I
off.
like things to check things off.
And
I
that was,
do.
that was an agreement for the,
Yeah,
for access.
yeah. And turning it over, just kind of the whole process.
To village hall meeting.
Check. I love to check stuff off the list.
All right. Anything else? We good?
Okay,
Okay.
and I'll present that, I'll have an update for you on
Thank
the
you.
12th.
I love this makes me so happy.
Yeah,
Thank you.
really nice. I agree. Thank you. Next up, council comments. Bob, you want to go first?
Sure. I want to thank the council, and especially the community for accommodating me personally, being able to attend the meetings in the manner that I've been doing, through the phone, with my wife's pre-existing conditions. It's important that, we all keep safe. And again, to the administrative staff, just thank you for the good job you're doing in light of this whole situation that's going on. It seems like it's still the same efficiency. So I appreciate everybody's work, and so thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Jamie?
Great job to the staff did a great job with the budget. Putting all this stuff together is not easy, it's very cumbersome. For the entire team to really make a lot of this stuff come together for us and make it more fluid. So thanks. And my other thought is with a lot of people that are out there, thoughts and prayers to all the people that are impacted by everything that's going on, not only, across the world, but, here locally and the state level. I think that Governor Cooper, I think President Trump has done a great job of managing a horrific situation. And kudos out to both state and federal governments for all the work that they do. And because, as we know, it can be very difficult at times, just fighting through the bureaucracy. So, that's it.
Thank you, Jamie.
I echo both Bob and Jamie's comments. I agree with what they've said. That's it. I'm good.
Thank you. Kim, I'd like to thank staff as well. Again, great job on the budget. Feel very comfortable going in and confident that we won't get much pushback on from anyone based on what I'm seeing and what I've seen in the past and stuff. The only thing on this agenda, it was confusing why reports and updates are after agenda items. Just curious, because usually something may come up that may create a council comment or review of action items.
We did that on the recommendation of the administrator.
Okay.
With the emotion being so prevalent, we kind of flipped everything so we could get Councilman Markleese out and on the phone as quickly as he could. So it was just primarily for placement to make sure that he was able to vote on the matters while he was here. And not listening on the phone, so it's not a permanent change. It just
As long as it's
happened
not a permanent change, because usually
No.
review and council would always be
No,
last.
we
but, you know,
did it for, just for this, because to allow him the opportunity to vote in the present.
Okay, very good. I too, along with Jamie's comments, looking at that, but thank you staff for all you've done. I really appreciate your efforts. I too, talking about, we're in unprecedented times. You know, I was asked to take action as a mayor. I know some other towns did. I didn't think we need to. I think still going forward, we're all fairly intelligent. We're taking the lead. I think we're already starting to see some things on the national level taking place. And it's really, being in the medical field years ago, this is really about overwhelming the system. It's not about that this virus won't get cured, just for those, in my opinion on this is about overwhelming the system. So if you were to go into a hospital with a heart attack or pneumonia, something that normally gets, addressed, and it will still happen as long as the system isn't overwhelmed, and we don't need to see a higher mortality rate. So that's why the need for this, and I think I think what they're doing is on the national level and on the state level has been very effective, and I appreciate all constituents and us being smart about this, about every action that we take. And to that note, while we all have been struggling with this new norm as it is now, and I hope it doesn't last that long, a little shout out to the creativity. Obviously, we're doing Zoom and stuff like that, but a shout out to the Marvin Elementary teachers who organized a little parade of their cars driving through neighborhoods. And it was so neat to see as I drove through my own neighborhood. I wonder why balloons were up and people were out. Well, I learned that the Marvin Elementary teachers, they miss their kids. I'm sure the kids miss them as well. And we're finding that where, that part of their lives is so important for all of us, and being with others, that they drove through the town. It just was a really neat way to let the kids know they were thinking about it. So thank you, Marvin Elementary teachers. And with that, I need to move on to reports and updates.
So, and the reports and updates are really quick. You had asked a question, Mr. Mayor, last meeting on taxation of Village Hall property and how it would be separated if we were to maintain a site over here. And so in doing some research, as I had thought, we and the church, as long as they're 501c3, would be tax exempt, property tax exempt. So we shouldn't have a problem figuring out who pays what property taxes. So there wouldn't be any property taxes.
Right, but there'd still be they look at the whole thing when they do private taxes, land and property, right? It's the whole, it's not the
But
land.
you're not
it's the
paying
property.
taxes if they're a 501(c)(3), right?
Yes, and a local government.
Okay,
and/or a local
okay, so we should be okay with it, or
Yes,
not?
both parties should be okay.
Great, thank you.
And then
Quick.
Mayor Pro Tem had asked some questions about updating the leash law, frequently asked questions. That's been done and posted on the website, so.
Good.
And those are the only two reports that I have from my end.
All right, thank you. Next up, planners report, Rohit.
I have nothing to report.
All right, thank you, Rohit. Next up, roads report. Christina, Joe
So-
Kerr pedestrian refuge update?
Yes, this is a big one that the community's been asking about, pursuant to the fatality that we had a couple months ago. And we've gotten some estimates back from AMT. So that road apparently is a little too narrow to put in a refuge as we desire it to be. And if we want to actually do a refuge like we have over here at the elementary school, they're gonna have to widen the road. So the estimates that we've gotten back was about $90,000 for that. We tentatively budgeted in our head in the CIP about $15,000. That was not for widening the road. So what I've asked AMT to do is go in and look at getting approval from DOT to put in some rumble strips. And we'll have a crosswalk that we've got kind of delineated with the rumble strip. So we're working on some alternatives. If that happens to work out, it's gonna be about the $15,000 that we had estimated, and not the $90,000.
So you're telling me that Marvin School Road is wider than Joe Carr Road?
AMT, that's the assessment that they had looked at.
I guarantee that's not the
I
case.
I can contribute to that. So the reason why the refuge worked at Marvin School is because there is a turn lane on the opposite side of the street. So on the side they put the refuge, it was wide as 3 lanes, but there's only 2 lanes. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Whereas Joe Carr and Marvin Creek, it's a 4-way intersection, so they have left turn
So
lanes
the
on both sides.
90,000 would really create probably put a turning lane in for
Basically,
where we
right.
wanted to put these things.
Yeah,
Correct.
to turn in one way and,
Okay.
yeah.
Mhm.
So we're looking, the short is, we're looking at options to get rid of the
Some
90,000.
other options.
Okay.
Can we look into some flashing lights or something there? Okay. Let's throw everything out there and see like what we.
We
can
talked about
say.
that
At Innisbrook, I
in different
know.
neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Innisbrook
Oh, I
Crossing.
said it.
Joe Candy.
But that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Next up, deputies report.
He's actually sitting outside in the
I
parking
saw
lot.
him pull up, yeah.
He's not feeling good, so I told him to stay in the car.
He's got a cough, so.
Thank you for that.
But he has his February packet, report in the packet, and then he just forwarded me his March one, so I can send that out to you guys tomorrow.
Okay. And then just put it on the work session just in case anyone wants to talk about anything, so. And then PRG board chair report, Andy Workman, no report from him, I assume.
Well, we had a meeting this morning. I'm not Andy, but I'll step in. Because we had a
Okay.
meeting this morning, and we were talking about, we worked with
His name is Tim
Tim.
Johnson, I think. I don't quite remember. Anyway, the company's name is Destination by Design, and they're doing our
Yeah.
Parks and Greenway master plan update.
Yeah, so we worked with them for a couple hours on trails and priorities and stuff like that. It was good. So they are moving forward with getting their master plan updated.
It will come to the council on June 9th.
Can we not get it on the, oh yeah, May 12th. May 15th is when they are shooting to have it done, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Can we not get it at the work session, just to look at it?
It would,
you could if
it
you
should
want.
go on the work session.
Yeah, they probably won't come to that meeting, but we could put it on the agenda for you to look at.
That's fine.
And so when you come to the June 9th, it could be more of a, just an adoption of it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. So we can
Yeah.
talk about it, go through it at the work session, and then just
Make a note of it.
approve it in the June meeting.
Okay, thank you. And next up, we have closed session, but there is none, I don't believe. Okay. By the way, Chaplain, thank you for all your effort in
Yes.
putting together, I didn't mention that earlier, but for putting together the process that needed to take place, because that was certainly way out of my league, so
That was
thank you for that.
unique and interesting.
Yeah.
Glad to help.
And then last time, I need a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Couldn't say that fast enough, huh?
Good night.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you all. Stay
Thank you.
safe.
All right, everybody be safe.
Be safe.
I'm passing out